My wife betrayed me by forging a note in my phone. While she was at a party with her lover and friends in the house I rented for our anniversary celebration. Hey Reddit, I need to get something off my chest. My name's Michael and I'm 35. For the past year, I've been planning the ultimate surprise for my girlfriend, Ashley, who's 32. We've been together for 5 years, and honestly, she's the love of my life. I wanted to celebrate our anniversary in a way that she'd never forget and propose. I'm talking big, over-the-top, life movie kind of celebration. Here's how it all started. About 6 months ago, I stumbled upon this stunning 5-star hotel in Los Angeles. It's the kind of place celebrities stay when they don't want to be bothered. $15,000 for a week in one of their penthouse suites. I know, insane, right? But Ashley deserves the world. She's been my rock through so much, work stress, family drama, you name it. So I thought, why not go all out? I called the hotel and locked in the suite. It's massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, a private rooftop pool, and even its own chef. When I booked it, the concierge asked me if I wanted to add any special experiences. That's where the rest of my plans started coming together. I scheduled a private beach dinner for $2,000, just us, a sunset, and a 5-course meal under a canopy of fairy lights. Then, I added a yacht cruise for the following day. The yacht isn't just some boat. It's a 60-foot luxury vessel with its own crew. I figured we could spend the afternoon on the water, sipping champagne and soaking in the views. I kept all of this a secret from Ashley. She thought we were just doing a simple getaway to LA to mark the anniversary. I even booked her a day at a spa before our flight so I could pack for her without raising suspicion. The woman loves surprises, and I wanted to make this flawless. The day finally arrived. I booked us first-class tickets, of course. Ashley was thrilled just by that, which made me laugh inside because she had no idea what was waiting for her. The whole flight, she kept thanking me and saying how excited she was to relax for a few days. I played along, pretending it was just a regular trip. When we landed, there was a private car waiting for us, a sleek black Mercedes. Ashley's eyes lit up when she saw the driver holding a sign with our names. Wow, fancy, she joked, nudging me. I smiled, thinking, you've seen nothing yet. The ride to the hotel was smooth, though Ashley kept peppering me with questions. What's the itinerary? Did you book any tours? I shrugged and told her to just wait and see. I could tell it was driving her nuts, but she was grinning the whole time. When we pulled up to the hotel, Ashley actually gasped. The place looked like a palace. Marble floors, giant crystal chandeliers, bellhops in perfectly tailored uniforms. It screamed luxury. At check-in, the receptionist gave me a knowing look and handed over the keycard. Enjoy your stay, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, she said, winking. Ashley didn't even catch the Mrs. part. She was too busy gawking at the lobby. When we got to the suite, Ashley froze in the doorway. Are you kidding me? She whispered. The place was unreal. The living room alone was bigger than our apartment back home. There was a massive balcony with an infinity pool overlooking the Pacific. The bedroom had a bed so big it could probably fit 5 people, and the bathroom had a jacuzzi tub with a view of the city. Michael, this is insane, Ashley said, turning to me with tears in her eyes. I hugged her and kissed her forehead, trying not to give away how much more I had planned. That night was the private beach dinner. I told Ashley to wear something nice, but didn't explain why. When she came out of the bathroom in a white sundress, I swear my heart skipped a beat. She looked stunning. The car took us to a secluded spot on the beach, where a canopy had been set up with twinkling lights and a table for 2. The sun was setting, casting the whole sky in shades of orange and pink. There was a waiter waiting for us, ready to serve the first course. Ashley was speechless, which is rare for her. Michael, this is the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for me, she said, holding my hand across the table. I smiled and told her she deserved it. We had lobster, steak, chocolate souffle, the works. I wanted to propose right then and there, but I decided to stick to the plan. The ring was burning a hole in my pocket, though. The next day was the yacht cruise. Ashley thought we were just going for a walk along the marina. So when the crew welcomed us aboard, she actually squealed. The yacht was ridiculous. Leather seating, a sun deck, and a fully stocked bar. The captain even let us steer for a bit, which Ashley loved. We spent hours out on the water. Ashley couldn't stop taking pictures and kept hugging me, saying how lucky she felt. At one point, we anchored near a quiet cove, and the crew set up a picnic on the deck. It was perfect. Now, here's where things get a little complicated. I thought everything was going perfectly, but Ashley started acting a bit strange after the yacht trip. She got quiet, which isn't like her, and kept checking her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I'm wondering if I should have. Things started to feel off about 3 weeks before the trip. At first, I didn't think much of it. Ashley's job could be demanding, and I assumed she was just stressed. But it wasn't just work, it was everything about her. Conversations about the trip, which she had been excited about before, now felt like I was talking to a wall. I'd mention something like, I booked us a spa day at the resort, and she'd respond with a distracted, "Oh, that's nice," without even looking up from her phone. Her phone. That was another thing. Ashley has never been one to be glued to her phone. She's the kind of person who leaves it on silent and forgets where she put it. But lately, it was always in her hand, and she seemed guarded. If I walked into the room, she'd lock the screen or tilt it away. Once, I joked, "What are you hiding? Top secret government documents." She laughed it off, but I caught her glancing at me nervously. Then there was Courtney. Courtney is Ashley's best friend, and while I've never had an issue with her, the amount of time Ashley was suddenly spending with her raised some red flags. Almost every other evening, Ashley would announce she was grabbing drinks with Courtney or helping Courtney with a project. One time, she said they were going to see a movie, but when I asked which one, she stammered something about it being one of those indie films and quickly changed the subject. One night, I decided to ask her about it directly. "Hey, is everything okay? You've seemed a little distant lately." She paused, looking caught off guard. "Distant? No, I'm fine. Work's just been crazy. But you've been on your phone a lot, and you're spending a lot of time with Courtney. If there's something going on, you can tell me." She rolled her eyes, which she rarely does, and snapped, "Michael, it's nothing. Can't I just hang out with my best friend without it being a big deal?" That shut me up for the moment, but the feeling that something was wrong didn't go away. The next week, things escalated. Ashley left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. It buzzed, and out of instinct, I glanced at the screen. It was a text from someone named L. I'd never heard her mention anyone with that initial before. The preview of the message read, "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was," and then it cut off. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I took a deep breath and walked away. But that text stuck with me. Who was L? And what did they mean by last night? I told myself I was overthinking it, but the pit in my stomach said otherwise. That weekend, Ashley said she was spending the day shopping with Courtney. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but something felt off. I decided to call Courtney around noon, just to say hi and casually confirm Ashley's story. "Hey, Courtney," I said when she picked up. "How's the shopping spree going?" There was a pause. "Shopping spree?" she asked, sounding confused. "Yeah. Ashley said you two were hitting the stores today." "Oh," Courtney said, her voice uncertain. "Yeah, we, just finished up. She's in the fitting room right now. Can I call you back?" The awkwardness in her voice was palpable. After we hung up, I sat there, my mind racing. Courtney was lying, that much was clear. But why? That evening, when Ashley came home, I tried to play it cool. "How was shopping with Courtney?" I asked casually. "It was great," she said, her tone a little too cheerful. "Got some cute stuff for the trip?" I nodded, watching her carefully. She was lying too. I could see it in the way she avoided eye contact and fidgeted with her bag. Later that night, while Ashley was asleep, I did something I'd never done before. I went through her phone. I hated myself for it, but I needed answers. Her texts with L were still there, and what I read made my stomach turn. "L, last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." Ashley, "Me too. I wish we had more time together." L, "Soon. Let me know when you can sneak away again." My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the messages. There were pictures too, selfies of Ashley, smiling in a way I hadn't seen her smile in months. Pictures of her at places she'd told me she was at with Courtney. And pictures of L, a man I didn't recognize, probably in his late 30s, with slicked back hair and a cocky grin. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I confronted her. "Who's L?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Ashley. I saw the texts. I know about last night, and I know you've been lying to me." She stammered for a moment before finally admitting it. "Liam," she said quietly. "His name is Liam. He's someone I met through Courtney." "Someone you met through Courtney? Are you serious, Ashley? You've been sneaking around behind my back." She started crying, but I wasn't sure if it was out of guilt or because she'd been caught. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Go this far?" "Ashley, We've been together for 5 years. I was planning to spend the rest of my life with you. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. Hurt me? You didn't want to hurt me, so you lied to me and snuck around for weeks? She didn't have an answer for that. I left the apartment to clear my head, walking aimlessly around the city for hours. When I finally came back, Ashley was gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter that read, "I'm sorry. I need some time to think." That was 3 days ago. I haven't heard from her since. I canceled the trip, the hotel, the dinner, the yacht, everything. I didn't have the energy to deal with it. Now I'm just sitting here, trying to make sense of everything. How did I miss the signs? How could she do this to me? And what the hell do I do now? I woke up on the day of our flight feeling cautiously optimistic. Things with Ashley had been rocky lately, understatement of the year. But I was still holding on to the hope that this trip could bring us back together. Despite everything, I still loved her. I had no idea what was about to unfold. The first sign something was off came when I checked my email. There was a meeting request marked urgent from my boss, sent late the night before. The subject line read, "Client Proposal Review, Mandatory Attendance." My stomach sank. My boss, Ryan, never scheduled last-minute meetings. We've been working on a huge account with a high-profile client, but the pitch wasn't due for weeks. Why would this come up now? I called Ryan immediately. He picked up on the second ring, his voice laced with confusion. "Michael, what's up?" "Hey, I just saw the email about the meeting. What's going on?" "I thought we were all set for the presentation next month." There was a long pause. "What email?" "The one about the client meeting today. It says it's mandatory." "Michael, I didn't send any email like that." "Hold on. Let me check." I heard him clicking around on his computer. "There's nothing on my calendar, and I didn't schedule anything for today." "Are you sure it's from me?" I opened the email again and stared at it. The sender's address looked legit, but something about the wording felt off. Ryan wouldn't usually phrase things so formally. Then it hit me. It had been forwarded. The original sender was an admin assistant I barely interacted with, and it looked like Ryan had forwarded it to me. "Ryan, it's from Kim in admin. It says you forwarded it to me." Ryan sighed. "I never forwarded anything. Sounds like someone's playing games. Let me call Kim and figure this out. Hang tight." While I waited for Ryan to get back to me, I felt a knot of unease forming in my chest. Something wasn't right. I glanced at the clock. If I didn't leave for the airport in the next 30 minutes, I'd miss the flight to Los Angeles. My gut was telling me to just go, but I couldn't risk blowing off a meeting if it turned out to be real. Ryan called back 10 minutes later. "Michael, I don't know what's going on, but Kim says she never sent that email. Someone must have spoofed her account. I'll get IT on it." "Great," I said, trying to keep the irritation out of my voice. "But what do I do? The email says the client will be on the call." Ryan hesitated. "Look, I don't want to take any chances. Just sit in on the meeting. If it turns out to be fake, we'll deal with it. But if the client really is expecting you and you're not there, it'll look bad." I felt like screaming. My entire plan was falling apart in front of my eyes. "All right," I muttered. "Send me the link." I called Ashley to let her know what was happening. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "There's been a mix-up at work. I have to stay for this meeting, but I'll catch the next flight out. Just head to the airport without me, and I'll meet you at the hotel." There was a pause on her end. "Oh," she said finally. "That sucks. Are you sure you'll be able to make it?" "Yeah," I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. "It's just a minor delay. I'll see you tonight." "Okay," she said, her voice strangely neutral. "Good luck with the meeting." When the meeting started, I knew almost immediately that something was off. The client didn't show up, and the agenda was full of vague, irrelevant topics. Halfway through, Ryan messaged me privately. "This is a waste of time. Someone's messing with us." I could feel the blood pounding in my ears. By the time the meeting ended, it was already too late to make my original flight. I booked the next available one, but it wasn't until the evening. Frustrated, I texted Ashley to let her know. "Hey, meeting ran long. I'll be on the 6:45 p.m. flight. See you tonight." No response. Hours passed, and I was stuck at my desk, unable to focus on anything. When I finally left for the airport, I felt a small sense of relief. At least the worst was behind me, or so I thought. When I landed in Los Angeles, I texted Ashley again. Still no response. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. My heart sank. Something wasn't right. I took a cab to the hotel, hoping she'd just fallen asleep or something. But when I got there, the concierge gave me a strange look. "Mr. Carter," she said hesitantly, "your party has already checked in." "My party?" I asked, confused. Yes, she said. Your wife and her guests arrived earlier this afternoon. Guests? What the hell was she talking about? Can you tell me who checked in with her? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not allowed to disclose that information. I stormed up to the suite, my mind racing. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the sound of laughter. Loud, obnoxious laughter, mixed with music. The suite was a mess. Empty champagne bottles, discarded clothes, and strangers everywhere. Ashley was sitting on the couch with Courtney and 3 men I didn't recognize. They all looked like the type who spent more time at the gym than at work. Muscular, tattooed, and cocky as hell. One of them had his arm draped over Ashley's shoulder. What the hell is going on here? I demanded. Ashley jumped up, looking startled. Michael, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? I repeated, my voice rising. This is our anniversary trip. Who are these people? Courtney rolled her eyes. Relax, Michael. We're just having a little fun. Fun? I snapped. You used my money to bring a bunch of strangers here and trash the suite? Ashley tried to pull me aside, but I shook her off. Don't touch me, I said. Explain yourself. Now. She looked at the floor, avoiding my gaze. I didn't think you'd make it, she said quietly. And I didn't want to waste the trip. Didn't think I'd make it? Are you serious? You sabotaged my work schedule to keep me from coming. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. Get out, I said finally, my voice trembling with anger. All of you, get out of my suite. One of the guys stood up, puffing out his chest. Hey man, chill out. We're just... Don't, I said, cutting him off. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling security. They all left eventually, though not without a lot of grumbling and dirty looks. Ashley stayed behind, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she said. I screwed up. I didn't know how to fix things between us. Fix things? I said, laughing bitterly. You didn't try to fix anything. You lied, manipulated me, and humiliated me. We're done. Ashley, don't come back. I walked out of the suite, leaving her standing there alone. I sat in my hotel room, my head pounding and my chest burning with anger. After everything that happened, I was still trying to process how Ashley, the woman I'd spent 5 years of my life with, had betrayed me so brazenly. Kicked out of the suite I'd paid for, humiliated in front of strangers. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I didn't know what to do with myself. Sleep was impossible. I stared at my phone for what felt like hours, cycling between anger, sadness, and disbelief. At some point, my thumb hovered over Ashley's Instagram profile. I'd unfollowed her months ago because, well, I was trying to be a better man and not stalk her social media whenever we had a fight. But tonight, I needed to see what she was doing. The second I opened her profile, my stomach dropped. There she was, smiling in my suite, surrounded by Courtney and those same meathead guys from earlier. Champagne glasses in hand, they were lounging by the infinity pool. In one story, Ashley was laughing as one of the guys threw Courtney into the water. In another, she panned her phone over the view from the balcony with the caption, "Living the dream." The final straw was a video of her clinking glasses with one of the guys, Liam, apparently, with a caption that read, "Cheers to new beginnings." Something inside me snapped. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was furious. How dare she flaunt this? After everything I had done for her, after all the effort I put into planning this trip, she had the audacity to rub it in my face? No, absolutely not. If she thought she could walk all over me, she had another thing coming. I grabbed my phone and dialed the hotel front desk. Hi, this is Michael Carter. I'm staying in the penthouse suite, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, even though my hands were shaking. Of course, Mr. Carter, the concierge replied politely. How can I assist you this evening? I need to cancel the remainder of my reservation immediately, I said, leaning into every word. There was a brief pause. Cancel? Are you certain, sir? You're booked for several more nights. Yes, I'm certain, I said firmly. Effective immediately. And while you're at it, cancel all the activities scheduled under my name. The cruise, the dinner, the helicopter tour, everything. Understood, sir, the concierge said hesitantly. Would you like to rebook for another date or transfer the reservation to another guest? No, I snapped. No rebooking, no transfers. Just cancel it. Very well, sir, she said, her tone professional but cautious. I'll process the cancellations now. Please note that these bookings are non-refundable. I don't care about the refund, I interrupted. Just do it. She assured me it would be taken care of and hung up. My heart was racing, but I wasn't done yet. There was one more loose end to tie up, her flight home. Ashley had no idea that I had booked her return ticket. It was part of my original plan to make things as seamless as possible. So, I pulled up the airline's app, located her itinerary, and hit cancel reservation. A confirmation email popped up within seconds. As I sat back, a dark sense of satisfaction washed over me. Ashley thought she could steal my trip, spend my money, and parade her betrayal online without consequences. Well, she was about to learn the hard way. The next morning, I decided to follow up with the hotel. I wanted to be absolutely sure that my instructions had been carried out. When I called, the concierge confirmed everything had been canceled. They also mentioned that Ashley had called down to the front desk earlier, confused and upset, because her room key had stopped working. I couldn't help but smirk. Did you let her know about the cancellation? I asked, feigning concern. We informed her that the reservation was terminated by the primary guest, the concierge said carefully. She was not pleased. I can imagine, I said, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Thank you for handling it. After the call, I pulled up Ashley's Instagram again. It didn't take long to see the fallout. She'd posted a story with a plain black background and the text, "Some people are so petty." A few hours later, there was a new video of her and Courtney at some cheap-looking hotel pool, looking visibly irritated. The comments on her posts were what really got me, though. People were asking what happened to the suite and why she wasn't there anymore. Someone even tagged me, asking, "Hey Michael, didn't you pay for this trip? What's going on?" I didn't respond, of course. I didn't need to. Watching her flounder and scramble to maintain her image was satisfaction enough. That evening, I got another call, from Courtney, of all people. I stared at her name on my phone screen for a long moment before answering. "What do you want?" I said flatly. "Michael, you need to fix this," she said, her tone frantic. "Fix what?" Ashley's losing her mind. She's stuck in LA with no money, no hotel, and no flight home. You can't just abandon her like this. I laughed bitterly. "Courtney, you and Ashley made your choices. This isn't my problem anymore." "You're being ridiculous," she snapped. "Do you know how embarrassing this is for her?" "Oh, I'm sorry," I said sarcastically. Was she embarrassed when she invited a bunch of strangers to the suite I paid for? Or when she spent my money on booze and pool parties? Or when she posted it all online like it was some big joke? Courtney sputtered for a moment, clearly caught off guard. "She made a mistake, okay? But you're blowing this way out of proportion. Tell Ashley to enjoy her new beginnings," I said coldly. "I'm done." I hung up and blocked Courtney's number. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace. I don't know what Ashley ended up doing to get home. Maybe she begged Courtney to cover her ticket, or maybe she sweet-talked one of the guys into helping her out. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. The first call came late in the evening, not long after Courtney's hysterics. Ashley. Her name flashed across my screen, and for a moment, I just stared at it. My stomach churned, not with guilt, but with a strange mix of satisfaction and dread. I knew exactly why she was calling, and I had no interest in hearing whatever excuses or manipulative tactics she had lined up. I let the call ring out. Minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text. "Michael, answer your phone. We need to talk." I didn't reply. I put the phone down and poured myself a drink, thinking maybe that would help calm the whirlwind of emotions. But as soon as I sat down, the phone buzzed again. Another text, and then another. "Michael, this is childish. Why are you ignoring me? Be an adult and answer your phone. You can't just leave me stranded here. Are you seriously that petty?" I laughed bitterly, the audacity of her words hitting me like a slap in the face. Petty? Childish? Was she serious? After everything she'd done, she had the nerve to try to turn this around on me? I ignored the messages, but they kept coming. "I need you to pay for my flight home. You're really going to leave me here? What kind of man are you? Michael, stop being so immature. Call me back." Each message made my blood boil a little more. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't even embarrassed about what she'd done. No, Ashley was offended that her free ride had come to an end and expected me to clean up her mess. Unbelievable. After an hour of nonstop texts and calls, I finally decided to answer. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed to set the record straight. "What do you want, Ashley?" I said, my voice cold and steady. "Oh, so now you decide to answer," she snapped. "Real mature, Michael. Do you think this is funny? Leaving me stranded in LA with no way to get home?" I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Funny? No, Ashley, I don't think it's funny. I think it's karma. Karma? She repeated, incredulous. For what? For enjoying a trip you didn't want to take? Don't play dumb, I said. You know exactly what this is about. You lied to me, manipulated me, and stole my money to fund your little party. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? She scoffed. Oh, please. Don't act like you're some victim. You're being ridiculous. Canceling my flights, my hotel. What kind of man does that? A man who's finally done being taken advantage of. I shot back. You made your choices, Ashley. Now you get to deal with the fallout. Oh, grow up, Michael, she said, her tone dripping with disdain. You're acting like a child. If you were really done with me, you wouldn't feel the need to pull this petty crap. You'd just move on. That's rich, coming from the woman who's been stringing me along while sneaking around with other men, I said. But sure, I'm the childish one. You know what? Forget it, she said angrily. Just pay for my flight, and we'll call it even. I almost laughed again. You're unbelievable, I said. You think I'm going to reward you for stabbing me in the back? Good luck getting home, Ashley. And with that, I hung up and blocked her number. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the wall. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, leaving behind a hollow ache in my chest. Despite everything, I had loved her. I had trusted her. And now, all that was left was a mess I couldn't fully process. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I decided to call Ashley's parents. Maybe it was out of a twisted sense of justice, or maybe I just wanted someone to understand the full scope of what had happened. Either way, I found myself scrolling through my contacts until I landed on her mom's number. Hello? Susan's voice was warm and familiar, a stark contrast to the chaos of the past few days. Hi, Susan. It's Michael, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Do you have a minute? Michael. Of course, she said. Is everything okay? You sound upset. I took a deep breath and launched into the story. I told her everything. How I had planned the trip, how Ashley had been acting strangely for weeks, how she had manipulated my work schedule to keep me from coming, and how she had used my money to fund a trip with Courtney and a group of strangers. I even told her about the Instagram stories, though I left out some of the more incriminating details. By the time I finished, Susan was silent. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, but she didn't say a word for what felt like an eternity. I don't even know what to say, she said finally. Michael, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was capable of something like this. It's not your fault, I said quickly. I just thought you should know what's been going on. Thank you for telling me, she said. I'm going to talk to her. This is unacceptable. We said our goodbyes and I hung up, feeling a strange mix of relief and guilt. I didn't know what Susan would say to Ashley, but at that point, it didn't matter. I had done my part. Later that night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer, but the voicemail that followed confirmed what I suspected. It was Ashley, calling from someone else's phone. Michael, I can't believe you called my mom. What the hell is wrong with you? Do you know how humiliating that was? You've gone too far this time. Just pay for my flight, and we can both move on. Please. I'm begging you. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the rest. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was finally free. After hanging up with Ashley's mother, I felt a strange sense of closure. For so long, I'd felt like I was losing my mind, like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. But now, at least someone else knew the truth. Someone else could see what I'd been dealing with. I wasn't crazy, and I wasn't alone. Susan's shock and anger were the validation I didn't know I needed. For a while, I didn't hear much about what happened on Ashley's end. I stayed off social media and focused on rebuilding my own life, but I couldn't help imagining the fallout. Susan wasn't the type to let things slide, especially when it came to her daughter. She and her husband, Frank, were old school in their values. Honesty, hard work, respect. They had always treated me with warmth and kindness, so I knew they wouldn't take Ashley's betrayal lightly. Apparently, I was right. It started with a call from my friend Jake, who happened to live in the same neighborhood as Ashley's parents. Dude, he said, the excitement in his voice barely contained. You are not going to believe this. What? I asked, my curiosity piqued. I ran into Frank at the coffee shop this morning. He was talking to some guy about Ashley, and man, it sounded bad. He said she was disgraceful and had no shame. I didn't want to eavesdrop, but he wasn't exactly being quiet. What the hell happened? I couldn't help but laugh. It's a long story, I said. Let's just say Ashley burned every bridge she had. Jake whistled. Sounds like it. Frank was pissed. I've never seen him like that before. The conversation left me wondering how things were unfolding on Ashley's end, but I didn't have to wonder for long. A few days later, I got a call from Susan. This time, she sounded more composed, but there was an edge to her voice that told me she was still furious. Michael, she said, I wanted to let you know that we've spoken to Ashley. Frank and I are, well, we're beyond disappointed. We raised her better than this. I'm sorry you're having to deal with all this, I said, and I meant it. As much as I was angry with Ashley, I didn't envy her parents. This wasn't just about me. It was a betrayal of the values they tried to instill in her. She told us some ridiculous story about you being too busy with work to go on the trip, Susan continued. She actually tried to make it sound like you were the one at fault. I laughed bitterly. That doesn't surprise me. But then we saw the messages, she said, her voice tightening. Courtney sent us screenshots of Ashley's text with that man, Liam. It was disgusting, Michael. Absolutely disgusting. Wait, I said, caught off guard. Courtney sent you the messages? Oh, yes, Susan said. Apparently, she's just as fed up with Ashley as we are. They had some kind of falling out, and Courtney decided to spill everything. I'm not sure what happened, but I have to say, I'm glad she did. The news caught me off guard. Courtney and Ashley had been inseparable for years, and while I'd always found Courtney a little abrasive, I never thought she'd turn on Ashley like this. What did Courtney say? I asked. Susan sighed. She told us about the trip, about how Ashley used your money and lied to you. She even admitted that Ashley had been planning to exclude you from the beginning. Apparently, Courtney wasn't comfortable with the whole thing, but Ashley convinced her to go along with it. That stung. As much as I hated what Ashley had done, hearing that it had been premeditated made it even worse. So, what now? I asked. Well, Susan said, we told Ashley that we won't be supporting her anymore. No more money, no more help, nothing. If she wants to act like a spoiled child, she can deal with the consequences on her own. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I think that's the right call, I said. Frank wants to talk to you, Susan said. He's been stewing over this for days, and I think he needs to get it off his chest. Do you mind? Of course not, I said. A moment later, Frank's deep voice came on the line. Michael, he said, I want you to know that I'm ashamed of her. Truly ashamed. She had everything. A good man, a good life, and she threw it away for what? Some idiot she barely knows? I appreciate that, Frank, I said, but you don't have to apologize. This isn't your fault. I know it's not, he said gruffly, but it's still embarrassing. I raised her to be better than this. We talked for a while longer, and by the time we hung up, I felt a strange sense of closure. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally move on. As for Ashley, things didn't get any better for her. I heard through the grapevine that Courtney had cut ties with her completely, and the rest of their friend group quickly followed suit. It seemed that once Courtney turned on her, everyone else saw Ashley for who she really was. Without her parents' support or her friends to fall back on, she was left to fend for herself. One day, out of morbid curiosity, I checked her Instagram. The posts from the trip were still there, but the comments had turned brutal. People were calling her out for using me, for lying, for being selfish. Ashley had always loved social media, but now it seemed to be turning against her. In a way, I felt sorry for her. She had brought this on herself, but it was still hard to see someone I once loved fall so far. Still, I knew it wasn't my job to fix her messes anymore. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with them. Just when I thought things with Ashley couldn't get any messier, life threw another curveball my way. It had been a couple of weeks since the chaos in Los Angeles, and I was finally starting to feel like I could move on. I'd cut her out of my life completely, blocked her number, ignored her Instagram antics, and avoided any mutual friends who might bring her up. I thought I was done with her. But then I got a call from someone I never expected. John Reynolds, her boss. I didn't recognize the number at first. When I answered, the voice on the other end was professional but slightly hesitant. Hi, is this Michael Carter? Yeah, who's this? I asked cautiously. This is John Reynolds. I work with Ashley. Hearing his name sent a jolt through me. I'd heard of John before, mostly through Ashley's stories about work. He was her manager, a well-respected executive at her company, and from what I'd gathered, he was married with kids. Why was he calling me? Okay, I said, waiting for him to continue. I hope you don't mind me reaching out, he said, sounding a bit uncomfortable. But I think we need to talk about Ashley. That caught me off guard. What about her? There was a long pause, and then he said, I was one of the people on that trip to Los Angeles. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. You were, what? I said, my voice rising. I was on the trip, he repeated. She told me it was a group getaway with friends. I had no idea you were supposed to be there, or that you'd planned the whole thing. I didn't know how to respond. My mind was racing, trying to process what he was saying. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. Because I just found out the truth, he said. And I think you deserve to know everything. He went on to explain how Ashley had lied to him, telling him she was single and that the trip was just a fun getaway with her close friends. According to John, she had been flirting with him for months at work, but he hadn't thought much of it until the trip. That's when things escalated. I'm not proud of it, he admitted. I let her get too close. But I didn't realize how far she was willing to go until I saw the messages she sent to her friends, bragging about how she'd manipulated both of us. She bragged. I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Yes, he said. One of her coworkers overheard her talking about it and forwarded me the screenshots. She was laughing about how easy it was to get me to pay for drinks and how she was using the trip to secure her promotion. I feel like an idiot. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ashley had not only betrayed me, but had also been playing her boss to get ahead at work. It was sickening. I'm so sorry this happened to you, John said. I've already reported it to HR. They're investigating now, and I wanted you to know in case they reach out to you. What exactly did you report? I asked, still trying to wrap my head around everything. Everything, he said. The inappropriate messages, her dishonesty about being single, the way she used company resources to fund part of the trip. It's a clear violation of our policies. Hearing that gave me a sense of vindication I hadn't expected. For weeks, I'd felt powerless, like Ashley had gotten away with everything. But now, it seemed like her actions were finally catching up to her. Do you think she'll get fired? I asked. I can't say for sure, John said. But this kind of behavior doesn't exactly align with our company's values. Let's just say it doesn't look good for her. We ended the call shortly after, and I sat there for a long time, trying to process everything. Part of me was furious all over again, but another part of me felt relieved. Ashley's betrayal hadn't just hurt me, it had hurt other people too. And now, finally, she was going to face the consequences. A week later, I got another call, this time from HR at Ashley's company. They wanted to verify some of the details John had shared, particularly about the trip and how it was funded. I answered their questions honestly, providing all the information I had. They thanked me for my cooperation and assured me that they were taking the matter seriously. A few days after that, I heard through the grapevine that Ashley had been fired. Apparently, the HR investigation had uncovered multiple policy violations, including misuse of company funds and inappropriate conduct with a superior. It was the final nail in the coffin of her professional life. What surprised me most was how quickly her friends turned on her. Once word got out about what she'd done, even Courtney, who had been her closest ally, wanted nothing to do with her. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that Courtney had confronted Ashley about the lies and manipulation, and the argument had ended with Courtney storming out and blocking Ashley on everything. By the end of it all, Ashley was completely alone. Her parents had cut her off, her friends had abandoned her, and her career was in ruins. Part of me felt sorry for her, but mostly, I felt a sense of justice. She had made her choices, and now she was paying the price. I haven't heard from Ashley since. The last I saw of her was a cryptic Instagram post with the caption, "Sometimes people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone." It didn't get many likes. As for John, he reached out one last time to apologize again and let me know that he and his wife were working through things. "I've learned my lesson," he said. "I'll never let someone like Ashley come between me and my family again." Hearing that gave me a small sense of closure. Life moves on, and so have I. But every now and then, I think back to everything that happened and marvel at just how far Ashley was willing to go, and how far she fell when it all came crashing down. Ashley's downfall didn't come in one sudden blow. It was more like a slow, excruciating collapse. Watching it all unfold was surreal. I wasn't actively seeking updates about her life, but the details found their way to me through mutual acquaintances, social media snippets, and the occasional dramatic phone call from someone who wanted to spill the latest. The first major hit, of course, was her job. After John reported her behavior to HR, the investigation moved quickly. They didn't just look into the Los Angeles trip, they dug into everything. It turned out Ashley had been bending the rules for months. Expense reports were flagged, emails were combed through, and meetings with her coworkers revealed a pattern of inappropriate behavior and dishonesty. The decision to fire her wasn't exactly shocking. I heard from a former coworker of hers, Rachel, someone I'd met briefly at one of Ashley's company holiday parties. Rachel called me out of the blue one evening, clearly bursting to share the news. Michael, she said, not even bothering with a greeting. Did you hear about Ashley? What about her? I asked, already knowing where this was going. She got fired. Like, completely terminated. They escorted her out of the building and everything. Escorted? I repeated, unable to hide my surprise. Yeah, Rachel said, her voice practically buzzing with excitement. Apparently, she freaked out when they told her. She was yelling about how it wasn't fair and how John was just as much to blame. Security had to step in because she wouldn't leave. I tried to picture the scene in my head. Ashley, always so poised and in control, reduced to a public meltdown. It was hard to feel anything other than grim satisfaction. She had brought this on herself, and now she was paying the price. But losing her job was just the beginning. Without a paycheck, Ashley was in serious trouble. Her lifestyle had always been far beyond her means, funded by a combination of her salary, her parents' generosity, and occasionally, my bank account. With her income gone and her parents cutting her off, she had no safety net left. I heard through Susan that Ashley had called them, begging for help. She spun some story about how her termination was unfair and how she needed money to get back on her feet. Susan and Frank, to their credit, stood their ground. We told her no, Susan said when she called to update me. We've given her more than enough chances. It's time for her to face the consequences of her actions. According to Susan, Ashley didn't take it well. She accused them of abandoning her and even tried to guilt them by bringing up everything they'd done for her in the past. You're supposed to be my family, she'd shouted during their last conversation. But Susan and Frank didn't budge. We love her, Susan told me, but we can't keep enabling her. With no job and no family support, Ashley turned to her friends, or rather, what was left of them. Courtney had already cut ties with her after the fallout from the Los Angeles trip, and most of their mutual friends had followed suit. Still, there were a few people she hadn't alienated yet, and she wasted no time reaching out to them. One of those people was Emma, a friend Ashley had known since college. I didn't know Emma well, but she had always seemed nice enough, quiet, kind, and maybe a little too forgiving. When Ashley called her, Emma didn't hesitate to help. She wired Ashley a few $100s so she could pay for a cheap motel and some food while she figured out her next move. But Ashley being Ashley, she couldn't resist pushing her luck. After a few days, she called Emma again, asking for more money. I just need enough to book a flight home, she said, according to Emma, who later shared the story with one of our mutual friends. Once I'm back, everything will be fine. Emma, bless her heart, agreed to help. She even offered to book the flight for Ashley, thinking it would make things easier. But when she asked for the details, Ashley started making excuses. I don't know my exact schedule yet, she said. Can you just send me the money? I'll book it myself. Emma hesitated, sensing something was off. Are you sure? She asked. It might be easier if I just send the money, Ashley snapped. I don't have time for this. That was enough for Emma. She told Ashley she wasn't comfortable sending more money and that she'd already done enough to help. Ashley lost it. She accused Emma of being selfish, ungrateful, and not a real friend. The conversation ended with Emma hanging up and blocking Ashley's number. From what I heard, that was a turning point. Word spread quickly among Ashley's remaining friends, and one by one, they all distanced themselves from her. No one wanted to deal with her drama, her lies, or her constant demands for money. In the end, Ashley was left completely alone. With no job, no family support, and no friends willing to bail her out, she had no choice but to swallow her pride and start reaching out to acquaintances, people she hadn't spoken to in years, people who barely knew her. Some of them helped, but most didn't. By the time she finally scraped together enough money for a one-way ticket home, weeks had passed. She looked nothing like the confident, put-together woman she used to be. The last update I got about Ashley came from a mutual acquaintance named Liz, who ran into her at a coffee shop shortly after she returned home. Michael, Liz said when she called me, she looked terrible. Like, she hadn't slept in days. She was wearing sweats, her hair was a mess, and she looked defeated. Apparently, Ashley had tried to make small talk, but Liz could tell she was embarrassed. She didn't even bring up what happened, Liz said. It was like she was trying to pretend everything was fine, but everything wasn't fine, and we both knew it. Ashley had burned every bridge she had, and now she was left to pick up the pieces on her own. I didn't feel sorry for her, not really. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. After everything with Ashley finally came to an end, I realized I had two choices. I could sit around, stewing in anger and regret, or I could move forward. I chose the latter. The trip to Los Angeles was supposed to be a celebration. a chance to mark a milestone in my life and look ahead to the future. Even though the circumstances had completely changed, I decided to keep that original purpose in mind. It was time to start over, free from Ashley's toxicity and the weight of everything she had put me through. So, I rebooked the trip for myself, packed my bags, and boarded a plane to California. When I landed at LAX, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me still felt the sting of disappointment. This wasn't how the trip was supposed to go. But another part of me felt a spark of excitement. For the first time in years, I had no one to answer to, no one's expectations to meet. This trip was mine, and I could do whatever I wanted. I checked into a boutique hotel near Venice Beach, nothing like the over-the-top luxury suite I'd originally booked. It was small and laid back, with a surfer vibe that instantly put me at ease. The room had a view of the ocean, and as I stood on the balcony that first evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of calm that had been missing from my life for far too long. The next morning, I woke up early and decided to try something I'd always wanted to do: surfing. I'd seen it in movies and always thought it looked fun, but I'd never actually given it a shot. There was a surf shop just down the street from my hotel, so I wandered over and signed up for a lesson. That's where I met Diego, my surf instructor. He was a few years younger than me, probably in his late 20s, with long, sun-bleached hair and an easygoing smile. "First time?" he asked as he handed me a wetsuit. "Yeah," I admitted. "Any chance I'll survive this?" Diego laughed. "Don't worry, man. I've taught people way worse than you. You'll be riding waves by the end of the day." He wasn't kidding about the worse than you part. I spent most of the morning wiping out, tumbling into the waves like a flailing fish. But Diego was patient, and by the afternoon, I managed to stand up on the board for a few glorious seconds before crashing back into the water. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make me feel alive. "You've got potential," Diego said as we wrapped up for the day. "Come back tomorrow, and we'll keep working on it." I took him up on the offer, and over the next few days, surfing became my escape. There was something incredibly freeing about being out on the water, with nothing but the sound of the waves and the feel of the board beneath my feet. I started to feel stronger, more confident, like I was finally reclaiming a piece of myself that had been lost. When I wasn't surfing, I explored the city. I hiked in the Santa Monica Mountains, taking in the sweeping views of the coastline and the sprawling city below. I wandered through the artsy neighborhoods of Silver Lake and Echo Park, stumbling upon quirky shops and hidden cafes. One afternoon, I found myself at the Griffith Observatory, gazing out at the Hollywood sign and reflecting on how far I'd come. It wasn't all smooth sailing, of course. There were moments when the loneliness crept in, when I couldn't help but think about what might have been. But those moments were fleeting, quickly replaced by the thrill of discovering something new. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living for myself, not for Ashley, not for anyone else. One night, as I was sitting at a beachside bar watching the sunset, I struck up a conversation with a woman named Elena. She was in town for a conference, a writer from New York who had a knack for turning every story into something funny. We ended up talking for hours, swapping tales of heartbreak and redemption over margaritas and fish tacos. "You know," Elena said at one point, "you've got a great story. The whole jilted lover finds himself in LA thing. It's like something out of a movie." I laughed. "Yeah, but I don't think anyone would believe half of it." She smiled. "Maybe not, but you should tell it anyway. Who knows? It might help someone." Elena and I didn't exchange numbers or make any promises to stay in touch, but our conversation stuck with me. She was right. I did have a story to tell, and maybe sharing it could help me make sense of everything I'd been through. The rest of the trip flew by. I spent my mornings surfing, my afternoons exploring, and my evenings watching the sun set over the ocean. By the time my last day rolled around, I felt like a completely different person. I wasn't just healing, I was thriving. As I packed my bags and prepared to head back home, I felt a strange sense of gratitude. Not for Ashley, not for what she'd done, but for the opportunity to start over. Her betrayal had been a wake-up call, a painful but necessary push to break free from a toxic relationship and rediscover who I was. When the plane took off, I looked out the window at the city below, its lights twinkling like stars. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready to face whatever came next. It had been a few weeks since I returned from Los Angeles. I was finally settling into a rhythm, carving out a life for myself that didn't revolve around Ashley or the toxic relationship we'd shared. My days were filled with work, trips to the gym, and new hobbies I'd picked up since my trip, things like cooking, photography, and even a little creative writing. I was determined to focus on myself, to rebuild from the ground up. The last thing I expected was for Ashley to show up on my doorstep. It was a Saturday morning, and I was enjoying a rare moment of peace, sipping coffee on my couch with some jazz playing softly in the background. When the doorbell rang, I frowned, not expecting anyone. I wasn't in the mood for interruptions, but I got up anyway and made my way to the door. When I opened it, my stomach dropped. There she was, Ashley. She looked different, and not in a good way. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes were wrinkled, and there were dark circles under her eyes that hadn't been there before. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of sympathy, but it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and resentment I'd spent weeks trying to bury. "Michael," she said softly, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I stared at her, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, to spare myself the pain of whatever excuses or half-baked apologies she was about to offer. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the good times, however fleeting they'd been, wanted to hear what she had to say. "What do you want, Ashley?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. I need to apologize," she said, wringing her hands nervously. "For everything. For the trip. For lying. For hurting you. I know I screwed up, Michael, but I need you to understand that I never meant to." I held up a hand, cutting her off. "Don't," I said firmly. "Don't try to spin this. You knew exactly what you were doing." She flinched, but I didn't let up. "You lied to me, manipulated me, and made me feel like I was crazy for months. You used me, Ashley. You used my money, my trust, my love, and for what? To party with strangers and chase some fantasy version of yourself?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't feel any satisfaction in seeing them. If anything, it just made me angrier. "I know I messed up," she said, her voice trembling, "but I've changed. I've been working on myself, Michael. I've been going to therapy, trying to figure out why I did the things I did. I know it's too late to fix things, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she had changed, that the woman standing in front of me was different from the one who had betrayed me so completely. But I couldn't. Not after everything that had happened. "It's too late, Ashley," I said, my voice cold. "You can't undo what you did. You didn't just ruin our relationship, you ruined my trust in you. And I can't come back from that." Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I thought she was going to fall apart right there on my doorstep. But then she straightened up, wiping her tears away with a trembling hand. "I understand," she said quietly. I needed to try." I nodded, stepping back and gripping the edge of the door. "You did," I said. "Now, please leave." She hesitated, as if she wanted to say more, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and walked away, her shoulders slumped and her head down. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. Closing the door behind me, I leaned against it and took a deep breath. It was over. Finally, truly over. But Ashley wasn't done yet. Over the next few days, she tried everything to get in touch with me. She called from different numbers, left messages on social media, and even sent me a long email detailing all the ways she was working on herself. I didn't respond to any of it. I couldn't. There was nothing left to say. At one point, she even showed up at my office. Luckily, the receptionist recognized her from a photo I'd shared during a casual conversation and warned me before she could get past the lobby. I told them to turn her away, and she left without causing a scene. Still, the fact that she'd come to my workplace was unsettling. The final straw came a week later, when I found a handwritten letter in my mailbox. It was pages long, filled with apologies, excuses, and pleas for a second chance. She wrote about how much she missed me, how she couldn't imagine her life without me, and how she was willing to do whatever it takes to earn my forgiveness. I didn't read the whole thing. After the first few paragraphs, I tore it up and threw it in the trash. That night, I sat down with a glass of whiskey and let myself reflect on everything that had happened. Ashley's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also been a turning point. It forced me to confront the ways I'd been neglecting myself, the ways I'd let someone else dictate my happiness. And now, standing on the other side of it all, I realized I was better for it. I hadn't just survived, I'd grown. I'd found new passions, new friendships, and a renewed sense of purpose. And while Ashley's attempts to reconcile might have once tempted me, now they just felt hollow. She wasn't the person I wanted to build a life with. Not anymore. As I finished my drink and set the glass down on the table, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Ashley never contacted me again after that. Whether she finally got the message or just gave up, I didn't know and I didn't care. All I knew was that I was moving forward, leaving the past where it belonged behind me.